Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1630B, and today's date is August 5th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, What You Are Witnessing Now is Needed Before the Big Drop. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded a new interview. It's with Jim Willey. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It'll bring you to the interview. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com or NewSentinel.com site. Scroll down a little bit. Look over to your right-hand side. You can play the interview right on the site. Or you can go to Steemit. That is steemit.com/@X22Report. And you can play the interview right on Steemit. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the FBI has released 2 caches of documents through their FBI vault, and this is related to the 2016 U.S. election. And one sheds light on the agency's relationship with Christopher Steele, while the other reveals that agent Peter Strzok waited until after the 2016 election to have Anthony Weiner's laptop analyzed for hacking. Now, the 71-page release of heavily redacted records concerning former MI6 spy Christopher Steele reveals that he was paid by the agency over an unknown period of time at least 11 times during 2016, and that Steele was admonished by the agency for unknown reasons in February 2016. Now, the Steele dossier, which is completely unverified, which was funded in part by the Clinton campaign and used by the FBI as well as foundational document to apply for the surveillance warrant on Trump associate Carter Page. The records were released in response to a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit brought by Judicial Watch. Now, there was another FBI vault release under the Hillary Clinton files, Part 24 of 24, reveals that counterintelligence agent Peter Strzok waited until November 9th, 2016 to submit the hard drive from what is believed to be Anthony Weiner's laptop to the FBI forensics team to investigate whether the device had been hacked. Something they told the judge was a concern to justify their October 30th search warrant application. It's already known that the FBI sat on the Weiner laptop, which the agency knew contained Clinton emails as early as September 28, 2016, yet former FBI Director James Comey wasn't briefed on the newfound emails until October 27, 2016. The FBI famously analyzed 350,000 emails and 344,000 BlackBerry communications in just a few days. Strzok waited until November 9th, one day after Hillary Clinton's loss, to submit the laptop's hard drive to the forensics team. Now, this is really interesting, and he did this on purpose, of course. In other words, the FBI told a judge that hacking was a concern in their October 30th warrant, yet waited until after the election to investigate whether there were any intrusions. Wouldn't analyzing Weiner's laptop for hacks be a primary concern? Well, only if you're really investigating something. If you're trying to hide something, no, it wouldn't be. We see out in Venezuela, well, it looks like there was an assassination attempt on President Nicolas Maduro. He was giving a speech at an army commemoration event. It was cut off because these drones flew in. They were packed with explosives and they exploded, and there were many different injuries and things like that. His guards came up and protected him, and you can see the crowd running and fleeing from the explosive devices. Now, Bolton was out there saying that the U.S. has no involvement in whatsoever. Now, most likely this was the intelligence agencies, because for a very long time they've been trying to get rid of Maduro. They've tried everything. And if you look at Trump and the Patriots, this is not their MO. They don't go in and try to kill individuals or have regime change, even though people might think they do. They haven't done it as of yet. They thought they were going to do it in North Korea. It didn't happen. Iran, everyone thought, oh, we're being set up for regime change. They're not having regime change. The same thing in Venezuela. This was the deep state's plan from way, way back. And they wanted to get rid of Maduro from years ago. And they've tried everything. All this sanctioning pressure, you name it, they tried it. It has all failed up to this point where they tried to assassinate the individual, which also failed. So we can see that the deep state, they haven't given up on their plan because they truly believe they're still in power, that nothing's changed. And eventually they'll get rid of Trump, they'll put their person into office, and they'll continue on. They don't realize that they're headed towards a point in time where they're no longer going to exist. And that time is coming very, very quickly. We see the Chinese ambassador to Syria. Well, he said that Chinese military might be moving into Syria to help with the next offensive. Now, is this really going to happen? I don't think so. I think they're just out there saying that they're ready and able if they need assistance, because there's a huge portion of Idlib where the paid mercenary army, well, they're still there. And once they're gone, it's game over. So there's just a few more left to do. And of course, the Chinese are coming in at the end, if they actually really do come in, but I don't think they're going to come in. I think what's happening here is they're just out there saying, yes, we'll assist. They do have a lot of economic ties with Syria, and right now they see that it's almost time to work with Syria, and I think they want to maybe move this along a little bit. But before that happens, before any of this happens, what has to happen? The coalition forces need to be removed from Syria. Now, it seems like everything is really going according to plan. Think about it. We mentioned this a while ago where the troops are going to be coming out, and we laid out the plan where there was going to be an announcement by Putin, which he did announce that all foreign troops must leave Syria, including Iran. And everyone said, oh, Iran's not leaving, they're going to stay there. Then we heard from a Russian official saying that Iran needs to leave, or they have withdrawn from the Golan Heights, which they moved back. And now we hear Iran out there saying the following, that they might remove some of their military forces in Syria, and they might even leave altogether after the situation normalizes and the fight against terrorism comes to an end. They continually remind everyone that Assad invited them into the country. If Damascus says, listen, we don't need you right now, the Iranian advisors, whatever they have there, will move out of Syria. And this was planned from the beginning. Think about this. The paid mercenary army from the deep state, they've been beaten. The coalition forces are in Syria illegally. And just to back out now, people will be like, why were you in there? What's the reasoning? Why are you in there now? So they gave a reason. We're in there because of the Iranian terrorists, the Iranian forces. Israel gave that reason. The U.S. gave that reason. And they said, well, if the Iranian forces, if they leave Syria, we will take our troops and move out of Syria. And this was all planned with Putin. It was planned with Syria. It was planned with Iran. And we see it happening right now. All of this was done in the background. When Trump met with Putin, they discussed this. And you can see now that Russia made the call. They told Israel, listen, the Iranian troops have moved back. Yes, Israel's going to reject it right now to make it look really good. What's going to happen now is that Iran just made the announcement that they will move out once all the terrorists are beaten. Pretty much the terrorists are beaten. If Assad says, listen, we don't need you anymore here, please remove your forces, your advisors, whatever you have, that announcement will be made. That is the next announcement. We had Putin. We had Russia official. We had Iran. Now it's Assad's turn. And once this happens, there'll be no excuse of why the coalition forces, Israel, need to be anywhere near Syria or inside of Syria. This was planned from the beginning, and it is happening right now. And like I said, I think this is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. So let's move on to Q's post. Q has posted many different posts here. We're going to start off with post 1803, August 3rd. How do you safeguard the integrity of the elections from domestic and foreign criminal actors? How do you utilize the Russia narrative to knock out decades of old election corruption. And Q gave a link to White House status and another link, whitehouse.gov, briefing statement, President Trump strengthening security elections. Q went on to say, why are Ds opposed to cleaning up our voter polls? Why are Ds opposed to imposing voter ID laws to further safeguard our elections? Why oppose basic common sense methods that are currently deployed worldwide? Logical thinking, corruption. Gave another link to Fox News. Trump sounds call for voter ID laws to fix rigged systems. Q. So the mainstream media, they're out there and they're trying to combine the two, that, Russia is attacking the election system. This is why we shouldn't use voter IDs. And they're trying to combine the two to make them one and the same, but they're really separate and apart. And again, they haven't proved that Russia did anything. And again, if you really look at it, Trump won by the Electoral Commission. How do you hack that? Quite impossible. So what they're talking about is completely ridiculous. So let's go back to Q's question. How do you safeguard the integrity of our elections from domestic and foreign criminal actors? How do you utilize the Russia narrative to knock out decades-old election corruption? Well, you need to do at least two things. Get rid of the exploitable voting machines, establish a paper trail, secure the integrity of the election by limiting it to living citizens of voting age through a voter ID program. It's no coincidence that this was recently disclosed. What was recently disclosed? Well, top voting machine vendor admits it installed remote access software on systems sold to states. So we have confirmation that they've added software and they were able to manipulate votes. Motherboard. Many have been howling about this for years, only to have been met with cries of conspiracy theorists. And yet, it's been true the whole time. But let's go to the tweet here from the White House. Senior administration officials warn that Russia will try to undermine upcoming U.S. elections. The president has specifically directed us to make the matter of election meddling a top priority. Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates. Now, when we look at this tweet, it links to a certain page, and that page is the White House. Top U.S. officials warn of pervasive Russian meddling in midterm elections in the 2020 cycle. So when you read this article and you read what it has to say, there's a couple of important points here. One, and you have to pay attention to these lines here. The officials said their foremost concern at the moment is protecting the November midterm elections and deterring other potential hostile actors from committing cybercrimes against U.S. elections infrastructure. We know there are others, and we know that there are others that are considering making attempts in 2018, which is what our focus is moving forward, Sanders said, adding that current intelligence shows us other countries are actively considering engaging in the midterms. Now, here's the important part. At the state and local level, Homeland Security, Kirstjen Nielsen, said her department is working with leaders to strengthen election infrastructure and provide technical advice to those dealing with computer intrusions, malware, and other devices. These orders are coming from Trump directly, even as he says he's had a good meeting with Putin. But U.S. Cybersecurity Command Chief Paul Nakasone said he and others have received explicit instructions from the president to combat the threat of election meddling. My guidance and the direction from the president and Secretary of Defense is very clear. We're not going to accept meddling in elections. It's very unambiguous, Nakasone said. Again, the media would have you believe these are mutually exclusive topics. They're not. President Trump called Thursday for new voter ID laws, just hours after dissolving the Presidential Commission on Voter Fraud. Trump went out and he tweeted, many, mostly Democrat states, refused to hand over data from the 2016 election to the Commission on Voter Fraud. They fought hard and that the commission not see their records or methods because they know that many people are voting illegally. System is rigged, must go to voter ID. Now, the commission was led by Vice President Pence and Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach. They asked all 50 states and the District of Columbia to hand over personal voter data, including voter names, voting histories, and party affiliations. During the panel's first meeting, Trump questioned the motives of states refusing to comply with the commission's request, suggesting they had something to hide. Trump months earlier had alleged, without evidence, that 3 million to 5 million people voted legally in the 2016 presidential election, delivering the popular vote to Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. On Thursday, Trump turned his attention to stronger voter ID, and he put up his tweet saying this is what they need, and this was back in January or so. So voter IDs looks like they're going to be coming. And if they do come, the cabal, the deep state, will lose whatever grip it had left over this nation because they will not be able to manipulate the elections. Remember, under the system, Clinton actually won the popular vote. The Electoral Commission actually voted for Trump. So if they're talking about Russian meddling in the election and things like that, they did it in the favor of Clinton because you can't hack into the Electoral Commission that is sitting in a room discussing who they should put in as president. It makes no sense. So we need to move on to post 1804. Now, this is a couple of texts that Anonymous put up there, and Q put, Autists present, no connection, logical thinking, VIP access, subject, threat to POTUS thwarted, rally, United States Secret Service threat identification, action taken, comms dark, message sent 5x5 Q. And the text went something like this. I guess you think of me as the female Seth Rich that knew she was being hunted and took the steps to foil them before they could succeed. I mean, short of killing the people who want you dead, how can you foil their plans to hunt you down? I fought alone until last year this time. Had Hillary won, I'd be dead or living under an assumed name in a different country. Now, this is in regards to the foiled assassination plot a couple days ago. The woman in question, Kate, was at first suspected by Annans to be actual assassin in the mix. In other words, it was theorized to be a sort of bait and switch. The fake assassin would be stopped, much to the praise of the Annans everywhere. Kate would be rewarded with a meeting with Trump in the VIP section, and that's when she would strike. After all, she did want to hug POTUS. So Annans were struggling with this. Some details just didn't jibe with some of the things we were seeing, and that's when Q came back to clarify. Post 1805, August 3rd. Q went on to say autist percent, no connection, logical thinking, and then below that said incorrect decoding, not the person, think connection, threat 1, threat 2, 1 equals past newspaper, 2 equals future rally, 1 equals 2, post noted VIP access, message sent, we know Q. Remember the Capitol Gazette shooting? Remember the odd psychotherapy background of the shooter and the way he marked his targets on social media? That guy was MK Ultra'd. And remember we put the image where this individual said he was being controlled and he heard voices in his head telling him to kill Trump and his family. And that was out in the article. So what I think is happening, what I believe Q is trying to tell us, is that the deep state is using all sorts of tactics to try to get MK Ultra conditioned would-be assassins to gain access to the rallies and not only try to hurt POTUS, but to make the Q army look violent and deadly as well. Which makes sense when you consider how many articles there have been in the past few days trying to link Q followers to, for instance, the Pizzagate shooter and the guy who held up traffic demanding the release of the OIG report. One Annan weighed in and explained it this way. I feel Q's past post still hasn't been interpreted properly. Kate is irrelevant, not the person. Q posted the story about her in post 1798 and said only VIP access. His post was a message to black hats indicating they would have eyes on the VIP section. We know that at the rally, the VIP section was cleared. Q signs were removed. There was chatter about Q media altercation that CNNs were preparing for. So Q's post 1805, threat 1 equals newspaper, Capitol Gazette shooting, threat 2 rally, Q supporters being framed for an attack on the media's reporters. This is important because the next move of the cabal is a false flag attack, the media which will be framed on Annans. The past few days have seen many journalists out of nowhere linking Q to violence, and Jim Acosta ramped this up bigly a couple nights ago, going on about Sanders saying the media was the enemy of the people. If he isn't on the cabal, he needs to be careful because he's going to make himself their sacrificial lamb. I think Q should get his credentials revoked for his own protection. So yeah, they're trying to frame the QAnon followers. But remember, the QAnons, everyone that listens, we have a code of ethics. And here they are. We are, and there's 17 of them. We are anonymous. We seek no money or fame. We are autists. We never stop and never forget. We are unoffended. We reject political correctness. We are patriots. We make America great again. We are protection. We protect the unprotected. We are justice. We will defend our rights. We are freedom. We free the enslaved minds. We are truth. We expose lies and deception. We are awake. We are immune to propaganda. We are data. We have access to everything. We are speech. We support free speech and true speech. We are light. We illuminate evil and darkness. We are love. We love the sinner, not the sin. We are united. We cannot be divided by them. We are honor. We stand for our flag and our soldiers. We are winning. We know how it ends. We are QAnon. We go one, we go all. So whatever they try to do is going to be very, very difficult. Let's move on to post 1806. Q, August 3rd, full attack mode. Washington Post leading. Sample post in the last many hours. And he gave links to the Washington Post. Who owns the Washington Post? Amazon. What ABC agency is heavily tied to Amazon? Q. And the Washington Post, of course, is out there full force, against Q. And here's a couple of them. There's a virus in Trump land. QAnon. Meet a real-life believer in the online pro-Trump conspiracy theory that's bursting into view. And, this goes on and on and on with all these different articles. Now, to answer Q's questions of who owns the Washington Post, well, we know it's Amazon. Jeff Bezos, he's the owner of Amazon. Through his holding company, Nash Holdings, he owns Washington Post. What ABC agency is heavily tied to Amazon? We know that too. CIA. It's always been the CIA. Amazon, they were kind of smarter than Facebook and Twitter, because what they did was they took the government funds and they contracted for cloud computing and allowed government to use cloud computing, where Facebook and Twitter did not do that. So Amazon launched a secret cloud service for the CIA, and this is how they continually got the money. So let's move on to post 1807, August 3rd. Q put up all these different type of diagrams and things, and below all of it went on to say, Figure 3.1, FBI chain of command for the mid-year investigation. James Comey fired. Jim Rybicki fired. Andrew McCabe fired. James Baker fired. Bill Priestap, power removed cooperating witness. Lisa Page fired. Peter Strzok, power removed escorted out. Class -F in brackets. Michael Steinbach, John Glacalone, Randy Coleman, Tricia Anderson, Kevin Kleinsmith, Tashina Gawar, Sally Moyer. Nothing to see here. Logical thinking. Biggest cover-up in U.S. history. Brackets, attempted, all caps, bolded, Q. These diagrams, remember, are the OIG report. And look at the file names. We know 123.jpg. think Q is trying to make the media panic. And if you look at all the diagrams, it's from the OIG report. Now, let's look at something else, and we'll go back to what has happened here in the post. We're going to go to post 1808, and Q put up this other diagram with all these different names of different journalists in different publications, the mainstream media. So we have ABC, we have the Associated Press, Bloomberg, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, and the rest, and put it in here. And here's an Annan's hot take on all of this, all the diagrams and everything that we just mentioned. Diagrams We Know 1 and We Know 2 depict relationships where there are contact between FBI personnel and reporters. Diagram We Know 3 depicts who held key positions in the FBI mid-year investigation at that time. This means specific FBI and reporter identities will be plugged into We Know 1 and We Know 2 charts, reposting charts for easy reference. So go back, look at the list of new names Q included. Michael Steinbach, John Glacalone, Randy Coleman, Tricia Anderson, Kevin Kleinsmith, Tashina Gower, Sally Moyer. Now, what's very interesting, while Pompeo was testifying in front of Congress, he was drinking a Coke. And on the Coke bottle, what name appeared? Tanisha. Now, this is very interesting. How many Coke bottles do you know that have that name? I mean, there are no coincidences. They're sending messages. They know exactly what's going on. And they're sending it to the deep state. Post 1809, August 3rd. Everyone talks about the indictments. Q put up all the indictments. Again, it's no coincidence that Q included this. Right after he gives us a list of media figureheads and the government officials they colluded with in an attempt to create the biggest cover-up in the U.S. history. Make no mistake, many of those names are in these sealed indictments, just waited to be unsealed. 4,985 new indictments. 45,468 entered between October 30th, 2017 through July 31st, 2018. An average of 5,052 per month. And they gave a link and a diagram of all the different indictments and broke it down per state. And you can read all of them. I mean, if you look, Alaska, you can see there's between October 30th, 2017 and February 28th, 2018, 31. Alabama, 83. That's the middle of Alabama. Northern, southern, eastern, 82, 30, 36. Arizona, 499. California Central, 1,525. So there are a lot of indictments, and they're getting ready for the big drop. Post 1810. There's anonymous tweet. This is August 3rd. Eric Trump, the level of hatred and the willingness to disparage my family and our great company has never been so ugly and unrelenting as I've ever recently seen by the Washington Post. It is clearly coming from the top with one motivation in mind, Jeff Bezos. Now, Q below that says, do you believe in coincidences? And we know that the Washington Post, they'll do everything they can to push propaganda. But we see that there's a Q confirmation from Eric Trump, following him, liking Where We Go One, Where We Go All tweet from the other night. So Eric Trump went out and he liked the tweet, which is a confirmation. Post 1811 is another confirmation by Q, and under it says, what a wonderful day. Post 1812, August 3rd. Anonymous put up a tweet by Representative Jim Jordan. Under his tweet, he tweeted, Rod Rosenstein says he's doing what the oath of office obligates us to do. Then why has he failed to comply with congressional requests and subpoenas, been caught hiding information from Congress, and, according to media reports, threatened staff on the House Intel Committee? Now, Q under this put the oath of office. And Q says, think Ray yesterday. Think Rod Rosenstein, RR, bolded in brackets today. Comms understood. Do you believe in coincidences? Q. Q then verifies yet another Q confirmation here with the oath of office, because he refers back to post 1699. I, state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter, so help me God. That was the oath of office. Now, it was nice that all the Annans, they took the oath. I don't think that was the point at that time, where people didn't realize it wasn't the point, so people took the oath. And I think this was really towards Rod Rosenstein, the Deep State, and the others who were in certain positions. Post 1813, August 3rd. Q put up a link, and it's snoo.github.io. It says infiltration. So here's a screenshot, and I'll read what's in here. Q predicted this. Thread, Keck. I visit both subs. When people over there have said that this sub is compromised, I've defended this place, saying that it can't go down the Q route because Reddit is looking at any excuse to ban. T_D serves to be an awesome Trump cheerleading site. Now, many here are attacking Q because you don't believe it. Fine, don't believe that Q is real, but don't attack your fellow Trump supporters. We're on the same side. The swamp media is coordinating their attacks against Trump supporters in general. Please don't give them the ammo. Which leads us to the following. This is a locked thread, but the original link leads to a Twitter thread, and it's been unlocked, and you can read it. Q, and this is the war economy, the_war_economy thread reader. Q is a bunch of anonymous users such as Baruch, the Scribe, CodeMonkey, Pamphlet Anon, etc. So yes, still anonymous. Who banded together to try and help MAGA by funneling information, as Rest pointed out, which is why the movement. Now, Q calls this infiltration, and I believe there was a video, because a lot of people have been sending it to me, that look, Q is fake. Now, you really need to look at what they've been pointing to, like the Twitter archive of Trump, and they're saying this is where they got the tweets. But if you really read the fact of that site, back then, they were doing it daily. They weren't doing it real time because their API didn't really work. And again, if they're using the API, it's very difficult to get the tweet before it actually comes out. It doesn't work that way, and that site wasn't working that way at that time. So we can see that whatever they were trying to prove, it really didn't work. So you have to be careful on who you follow. Post 1814, August 3rd. Brackets across all major mainstream media networks. Full visibility has many advantages. Right on schedule gives a link to Fox News. What is QAnon conspiracy theory group showing up to Trump rallies? And we see right now that all of this is about Q. All the networks, they're kind of talking about Q, and they're putting Q into the public eye right now. Think about what they're doing. I mean, their agenda is completely different, but they're putting it into the public eye. Post 1815, August 3rd. Judicial Watch. Hillary Clinton, Part 24 of 24. We mentioned this in the beginning of the report, and this is about the server. And Q says, we have the servers. Brackets, capital S after server. Judicial Watch got their hands on a lot more documents. Jordan Schachtel, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right. FBI has released new info on Hillary Clinton investigation. Most interesting thing I've seen thus far is a timeline documenting back and forth between Department of Justice and Hillary's lawyers over what they could and could not see. A lot of negotiation. Was she hiding something? And they give all the documents. And Jordan went on to say, more, surprise, Hillary's lawyers announced that there is a successor server that they can request access to. FBI is not thrilled with this revelation, and they give the documentation for that. So think about this for a minute. This means Comey, McCabe, Strzok, FBI, knew about the other server. let Hillary keep using it. Never said anything about it. How are they going to explain this one when Congress asks them all these questions? They're cornered. And as Q always says, we have it all. Post 1816, FISA, brackets 20, the 20 pages that are redacted, confidential. Nunes wants them out there. There is a reason, Q says, why we needed to go mainstream prior to the evidence, in all caps, being dropped. You have more than you know. D5, where we go one, we go all. D5 is what? 45, the president. D is the fourth letter in the alphabet. And there is a reason why all this had to be brought out there. The more information you have, the less problems will be to reveal all of this. Of course, the mainstream media, they're not picking this up, but they've heard of Q. And they heard of the conspiracy theory. This will be turned around when the truth comes out. Well, people say, well, how is the truth going to come out? We have all the proofs, everything documented, all this information, connecting the dots, all the autists coming together, proving certain things. And once you have the facts, all the propaganda does not work. So Q put up post 1817, went back to post 1332. This is back May 10th, 2018. Fellow patriots, what you are about to learn should not only scare you, but intensify your resolve to take back control, freedom. The information that will become public will further demonstrate the criminal and corrupt, pure evil, abuse of power that Hussein administration undertook in joint efforts with domestic and foreign dignitaries. The snowball has begun rolling. There's no stopping it now. D5, 45, the president. Stay the course and trust the plan. Protective measures are in place. Remain brave. We knew this day would come. United we'd stand. Where we go one, we go all. We fight conspiracy no more. Q under this says, be aware of your surroundings. See something, say something. So it looks like a big drop is coming soon. This was all in preparation. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see this come out in the next couple of weeks or even sooner. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.